while I'm waiting for one of my phones to do some work for me, it's going to take a while too. Let me talk about past life experiences. Okay, I don't really believe that much in these, but I asked Rabbi Barbara, I said, do Jews believe you can live more than one life? And she said, I don't want to have her say something. She said, in certain ways of looking at things, yes. Okay? That's the best answer I can give, okay? Because there are some mystical traditions in Judaism, which I think they're described as Kabbalah. I've never read any of that Kabbalah, so I think I'm not misquoting her. She said, yes, Jews do believe that it's possible. Okay? So, let me say that I don't really put much store by it, even though I read just about every book I think that Sylvia Browne ever wrote. And she was a prolific author. She might have written 30 books. And I read all of them. I also owned all of them because I got them like $1 a copy down at the Martin Luther King Library in D.C., where I used to go during lunch sometimes. Okay, so when I was working downtown in Chinatown, about a block away from that library, I used to love going there. Got a lot of great books from there. Plus, I bought some encyclopedias, and I've told the story about. I bought an entire Encyclopedia Britannica, huge, and they said you got to take it all now. It was like 30 volumes, so I had like 10 bags. Never mind, I told that story. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, past lives. Okay, so you can see that I'm not taking this too seriously, but I do believe it's possible I did leave some past lives. Now, I'm not going to say everything I've experienced in this area, because some of these things I kind of hope they're true, but in the ones I'm going to relate, I don't feel that bashful about putting into words. Okay, one of them was my great-great-grandfather was in the Civil War. I think I may have been him. That may be one of my past lives. I was him. Now, it's not because I look like him, but I did get a picture of him. And I do look incredibly like him. People tell me, some people, I don't know if they're pulling my leg, they say, this is you. They're just pulling my leg, I don't know, but I do look remarkably like this great-great-grandfather, but that's not why I feel like I may have lived his life. The reason I feel that way is because, like, when I was back in school around the time I was playing soccer, we call that football outside the United States. Here we call it soccer. I had never played soccer before, and I get to this private school where they play soccer, so wow, I'm loving soccer. And I played the position center forward. I don't think they have that anymore. They have strikers and this kind of thing. Our son played, and, I followed him religiously, but no, they don't have any position called center forward anymore. But that was my position. And, well, as far as being a striker, I was the striker on our team, scoring the goals. I'm not bragging. I'm trying to talk facts. I'm not bragging. It's like if you played quarterback on a football team, you'd say, I passed the ball. Linemen are not going to pass. The quarterback passes. If he says, I passed the ball, you think he's bragging? I was the striker on our team. I was the guy that they crossed the ball into the middle, hopefully for me to score. Okay, so anyway, it often happened that we'd be on the attack, okay, and when you were on the attack in soccer, when I played, your whole front line would be moving down the field. You'd all be running down the field together. Like what? Well, at that time in my life, you know what I used to think? Cavalry charge. I'm in a cavalry charge, and I felt like I was in one. We were moving down the field like men on horseback in a cavalry charge, okay? Well, years and years later, like 40-some years later, I discovered that I have a great-great-grandfather who was in the cavalry. On the Union side, in that war that occurred in America, which is the bloodiest war America has ever been in, there were more men killed in the Civil War than all the other wars together. That includes World War I and World War II. That's how bloody a conflict the Civil War was. Okay? So, I find out that I have this great-great-grandfather who was in the cavalry. I never knew that. No one in the family knew. I'm the one who discovered that by researching the man down at the archives in Washington, D.C. and getting records on him and letters that he had written and so on. So I then eerily felt like, where did I get the idea that I was in a cavalry charge like that? It may be because I lived his life. And I was in. Because like I say, I look remarkably like this man. Okay, now there's one past life. Now, another one, Sylvia Browne had this self-hypnosis thing you could do in some of her books. She teach you how to self-hypnotize yourself. She had it all written out, what you were supposed to do. And that was to see which past life had been like the most, I'm looking for words, traumatic or decisive in your life. This is like the most decisive past life you've lived. And you could discover it the way she gave you directions to discover it. So I followed all the directions in her book and hypnotized myself, okay? And I did this 3 times on different occasions to like, because I was saying, come on, this can't be true. But I did this 3 times, and each time I had the same experience of a past life. And here's I'm not going to tell it in detail, but the past life was, I was in France at the time of the French Revolution, and I was executed in one of those guillotines because I was a rich man. That's as much as I wanted. I could go in more detail, but I did this 3 times, and like I envisioned myself being taken through the town in that cart to be from the prison to the beheading place, and I saw it. I have a very pictorial imagination. You could see the whole thing in detail 3 times that I did this. But I'm saying, come on. I'm still saying, come on, but the fact remains, I did exactly what she said, and on 3 different occasions, the same experience. Okay, that's another past life. Any more? There was one more I wanted to mention. I've forgotten it now. Fear or stage fright, whatever. So, oh yeah! The whole reason for this recording. Here's another one that I'm a little bit shy about relating. I've kept this to myself. I thought to myself, I have had, like, imaginative pictures in my mind of seeing the control dash of an airplane, a World War II airplane, a Japanese World War II kamikaze plane, and I'm the pilot. And I can see myself being in there, looking at the dash and so on. And what I'm to do is to crash that plane and die, okay? So that's all. I don't see myself more than that. I just see the dash and all that. It's very real. So I say to myself, is it possible that at the end of my life now, being drawn toward the Japanese, I am really going home to my most recent past life, which was as a kamikaze pilot during World War II. Now, let's face it. I do not really believe this, and I am an imaginative guy and a creative writer. This would make a great story, right? So keep that in mind. I'm not. I recall how the actress Shirley MacLaine got into this kind of thing, and people were saying this is a complete nut. You know, I don't believe she was. I like Shirley MacLaine, and I never read any of her books about past lives and anything. I never read any of her books, and I don't mean to criticize her. I read lots of things. I didn't read that, probably because I couldn't afford to. Okay, and I don't tend to check books out of the library. You know, I just tend not to. Not that kind of book. So here's the possibility. I'm saying to myself, the man of the year always claimed to have shot down a plane, Japanese plane, at the end of the war. And I figured he didn't say definitely, but he's trying to not to brag. So it had to have been at the Battle of Okinawa, right? Okay. So he's saying he shot down a plane, and I'm saying what he did was a plane already going down as a kamikaze plane, and he said kamikaze planes did hit in big ships right next to his ship. He said he was on a small ship, okay? So he was not a target of kamikaze planes. When these kamikaze planes came down into the big battleships were right next to his ship. So, boom, they come crashing in there. It was quite something. He said one did explode right next to his ship, went crashing into that ship, and he was there. Now, I'm saying when he shot down this plane, what he did was, let's say it was me he shot down, and he wasn't shooting me down. What he did was, I'm coming down to kamikaze my plane into a big battleship, okay? And when his machine gun fire, or whatever he's firing, it's a naval gun. I guess it wasn't a machine gun. I don't know what kind of gun it was. I got a picture of it, but I never looked into these things. I'm not interested in guns. I'm not interested. I'm not interested either, so I don't know. But when he hit this plane, what he did was he threw it off course from its target of hitting a big battleship. And what happened was the plane landed in the ocean because it had been thrown off course by the man of the year who's claiming to have shot it down. The man of the year was not shooting it down, but he did throw the kamikaze pilot, me, off course. The plane hits the ocean and the pilot survives. Now, he didn't plan on surviving, but he didn't hit the ship, so he goes into the ocean, me, and he lived. Now, I guess I thought about this too. I thought, if you were a kamikaze pilot, would you then drown yourself? The idea is to crash your plane into the enemy. So I don't think you would drown yourself, but you'd have to talk to the Japanese on this. Okay, you want to have this conversation? Bishuasi? Maybe you can tell me. Let's get together and tell me. Okay, so I figure, let's say he survives that. I did, and I'm in the water, and I'm not thinking I'm going to drown myself, because let's say I was saying, I don't want to kill myself. My God, I'm only 19. This is awful. And so I'm thrown off course. I've tried with all my might to crash my plane into this battleship, and I notice I'm getting hit and thrown off. And I miss the battleship, and I survive. So I'm not going to drown myself, and I'm taken prisoner. And that's like 1945, right? The end of the war, August 1945, and I'm dead before this guy here is born. Or you got to realize that time in alternate realities is not time the way we're thinking of it mostly in our world today. I was reading in Stephen Hawking's way of looking at things that in reality time is like, it is another dimension, so it's hard to grasp this even now as I'm talking, but everything in time is already here, like the landscape is already here. So a distant moment is like a distant mountain. It's already there. It's not like it's going to happen sometime in the future. No, the future is there already. Hard to grasp, right? But from this point of view, I could have lived out a complete life and died in old age and then born at a time before in time. You see what I'm saying? Let's say in 1945 I'm 19 and I die 60 years later in 2020, right? Is that right? 1950 to 2000, 50 years. I die around 2010. Not 2010 I pass away, but I'm then reborn 60 years earlier in time as me. Time can do this as far as I can tell when I was reading. Now, if that is not how it happens, let's say I'm 19 when the plane goes down and I die of some disease or accident before the date when this guy here you're looking at is born. I'm in an accident or something and get killed, or I die of a disease. Either way it could work. So I was this young pilot who was Japanese. I was Japanese, and that is why at the end of my life I'm trying to get back to my home. And I've said before, it could be that I'm often calling out mommy and identifying the person I'm calling Bishuasi as mommy. I'm saying the reason is because America's Man of the Year was abusing me even when I was an infant because I wasn't his son. Well, maybe there's another reason. Maybe the reason is my mother was Japanese in this previous life. And I loved her dearly. And so I want to go home to Japan. That is my spiritual home somehow, and I want to go home. Here's that interpretation. Well, that's all from me for now.